For decades, Saudi Arabia has been synonymous with a country dependent on oil. From the moment vast oil deposits were discovered on its territory in the 1930s, the entire economic and political system was based on its extraction and export. Oil revenues funded everything, from free education and healthcare through fuel subsidies to infrastructure projects. But this model, though effective for a long time, is no longer sufficient. The world is changing. The global economy is increasingly moving away from fossil fuels. Energy markets are becoming less predictable and oil prices more volatile. Saudi Arabia, though still powerful as an exporter, can no longer rely on an endless stream of petrodollars. And it is in this context that the question arises, can this country build a future that is not solely dependent on oil? In 2016, Prince Mohammed bin Salman presented a strategy called Vision 2030. Its goal is clear: to transform Saudi Arabia from an economy based on raw materials into one based on knowledge, technology, and services. But vision alone is not enough. Enormous resources are needed. And here enters the key instrument, the Public Investment Fund, Saudi Arabia's sovereign wealth fund. Since 2015, the value of this fund's assets has grown more than sixfold, from about $150 billion to over $900 billion in 2024. The fund invests not only in Saudi Arabia, but also abroad, in technology companies, real estate, sports clubs, and infrastructure projects. Purchases such as the acquisition of the Newcastle United Football Club or investments in Uber and Lucid Motors are not mere whims. They are a strategy for building recognition and influence. But Saudi Arabia is also investing domestically. The NEOM project is one of the most ambitious development initiatives in the world. In the desert by the Red Sea, a futuristic megacity is to be built from scratch, with autonomous mobility, zero-emission energy, and digital space management. The cost? According to estimates, over $500 billion. However, it's not just about infrastructure. The country is betting on energy diversification. In 2024, renewable energy sources account for only about 5% of the energy mix. The government's goal is to reach 35% by 2030. Solar and wind farms are being built, as well as projects related to hydrogen and nuclear energy. Nor can we forget the tourism sector. Saudi Arabia, which for decades was practically closed to foreign tourists, is opening up to the world. By 2030, the government plans to attract over 100 million visitors annually. To this end, luxury resorts, Michelin-starred restaurants, and new airlines are being established. The question is, will all this be enough? Can billions of dollars, immense political will, and lofty strategic goals truly make the country independent of oil? Saudi Arabia's transformation is not only about the economy, it also touches deeply rooted social and cultural structures. Just a few decades ago, the kingdom had some of the most restrictive social norms in the Muslim world. Women could not drive cars, participate in public life, or work without a guardian's permission. Today, the situation is changing, and rapidly. According to 2023 data, women's participation in the Saudi labor market has exceeded 35%. For comparison, in 2017, it was less than 20%. The government encourages professional activity by introducing training programs, subsidies for employers hiring women, and social campaigns. For a conservative society, this is a revolution. But for economic strategy, it is a necessity. Without fully utilizing human potential, modernization will not be possible. At the same time, the education system is being overhauled. The kingdom is investing billions of dollars in new campuses, partnerships with foreign universities, and the digitization of education. The plan is for at least 30% of students to study in fields related to modern technologies, engineering, artificial intelligence, and biotechnology by 2030. Today, that figure is only 12%. However, education and gender equality are just parts of a larger challenge. building a civil society within an authoritarian system. Saudi authorities declare openness to change. But, in practice, political control remains very strong. Freedom of speech, independent media, and non-governmental organizations are areas under strict surveillance. The paradox is that a state aiming to be economically modern does not relinquish its traditional power structure. On the other hand, this control allows the government to efficiently implement development projects without decision-making paralysis. In Europe, many investments are delayed by social protests, political conflicts, or endless environmental procedures. In Saudi Arabia, decisions are made quickly and implemented immediately. For investors, this is a competitive advantage, provided they accept limitations on civil rights. One of the greatest challenges facing the country is its demographic structure. Over 60% of citizens are under 30 years old. This is enormous potential, but also a challenge. The government must create hundreds of thousands of jobs annually to avoid mass unemployment and frustration among the youth. This is why the entertainment, culture, sports, and tourism sectors are being developed, not only to attract foreign visitors, but also to keep young Saudis in the country. In 2024, Saudi Arabia's tourism revenues exceeded $20 billion. This is significantly more than 5 years earlier, but still below the government's ambitions, which aim to reach $70 billion annually by the end of the decade. To achieve this, not only hotels and tourist attractions are needed, but also transport infrastructure, workforce training, and a change in the country's international image. Against this backdrop, it's worth mentioning Saudi Arabia's role in the geopolitical context. The country is not only an economic player, but also a key piece in the security puzzle of the Persian Gulf and the Middle East. Relations with the United States are strategic, but not without tensions. At the same time, Saudi Arabia is growing closer to China as a potential technological partner and export market. The kingdom's foreign policy is based on balancing the interests of the East and the West, while building his own position as a regional leader. An interesting example of this strategy was the decision to join the BRICS group, the informal alliance of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. For Saudi Arabia, this means the possibility of diversifying trade and political partners. For the rest of the world, it's a signal that Riyadh does not intend to be merely a satellite of Western powers. But will all this be enough to buy a future? It's possible to build cities of the future, invest billions in technology, and change the image to a more modern one. But the question remains, are these changes sustainable, or are they merely superficial? Experts point out that without deep institutional reforms, an independent judiciary, financial transparency, and decentralization of power, the transformation may stall. Investors will not risk capital where there are no legal guarantees. Young people will not believe in the future if they have no influence over the shape of the state, and society will not be innovative if it fears expressing its opinions. Saudi Arabia today has an opportunity it has never had before. It has capital, a young population, and leadership ready for change. But to buy itself a future, it must not only finance it, but also fight for it. And that is why the question about Saudi Arabia's future is not a question about oil. It is a question about courage. The courage to change the country, not just in reports, but in reality.